My child, I want you to hear me today. I want you to hear me today. My child, is everything. What because circumstances have shifted? Not if you realized you were being tested while you were walking through it. There were days that seemed to stretch on without end, and nights that felt so heavy you could barely carry your own thoughts. There were moments when the silence around you felt so deep that you wondered whether I was still listening at all. Yet you kept moving forward. You could have closed your heart. You could have walked away and decided that faith had failed you, but you chose to remain. I saw every one of those choices, and I know exactly what it cost you to keep showing up when nothing around you seemed to change. I want you to understand something clearly. The silence you experienced was never abandonment. It was never punishment, and it was never evidence that I had forgotten you. It was evidence that I trusted you. When gold is placed into a refining fire, the refiner stays close, watching carefully, waiting for the moment when every impurity rises to the surface. That is what I was doing with you. I was never distant from the fire you walked through. I was nearer than you realized, watching over every moment, making sure the process accomplished its purpose without destroying any part of who I created you to be. You believed I had gone quiet, but heaven was working behind every closed door and every prayer that seemed unanswered. Each morning when you woke up and chose faith again, I was already arranging things beyond your sight. I was positioning people, moments, and circumstances with a precision you could never have orchestrated on your own. Your life matters to me. Your name still carries significance before heaven, and it always has. There were nights when you almost gave up. I know them well. I remember the moments when you lay awake and whispered, "Maybe this was never meant for me." I remember the mornings when hope felt like it belonged to someone else, someone whose journey seemed easier and whose prayers appeared to be answered more quickly. You looked around and watched others move ahead. Doors opened for them. Opportunities appeared for them. Answers seemed to come to them while you remained standing in the same place. In those quiet moments you asked me why. If you have faith in what I am speaking over your life today, declare your amen. I heard every question. I heard every why. I did not always respond with explanations because explanations are not always what a weary heart truly needs. Sometimes what a tired heart needs most is the assurance that I am still here, that I still know your name, and that I have never left you behind. So I whispered, "Hold on." Even when your natural ears could not hear it, I spoke it into your spirit. On the nights when you thought hope had disappeared completely, I was the one keeping that final thread from breaking. That steady strength holding you together when you felt like you were unraveling was my hand upon your life. You thought you were falling apart, but you were being formed. From the inside of the process, those two things can feel very similar. Yet I have seen the difference from the very beginning. I knew what kind of faith would emerge from this season, and I knew the strength that would be developed through the pressure. What I have always looked for is willingness, not perfection, not flawless performance, not a person who never struggles. I look for a heart that says, "Lord, I do not understand what is happening, but I am still here." Again and again you gave me that response. Every morning you chose one more day of trust. Every night you rested in the reality that tomorrow was in my hands. Every prayer you prayed reached me, even the prayers that sounded more like groans than words. Not one of them was lost. Not one of them disappeared into the air. Every prayer rose before me. Every prayer has been answered, is being answered, or is moving toward an answer in ways you cannot yet fully see. My beloved, your journey was never overlooked. Through that long season, heaven witnessed every step you took. Your acts of kindness were seen when bitterness would have been easier. Your forgiveness was seen even when no apology ever came. Your decision to keep loving when love felt costly was seen as well. Those moments mattered more than you realize. Heaven was never silent about your faithfulness. There was joy each time you stood back up after being knocked down. There was joy every time you wiped away your tears and kept moving forward. There was joy whenever you chose me over comfort, over pride, and over the easier path that would have taken you away from purpose. The world saw struggle. Heaven saw worship. Hold on to that distinction. What looked like loss from one perspective was preparation from another. What appeared to be delay was shaping. What felt like standing still was actually growth taking place beneath the surface. You were not falling behind. You were becoming someone new through the refining process. You were being shaped by trust, strengthened by endurance, and prepared for the season that now stands before you. My child, you passed the test. The refining work has accomplished what it needed to accomplish. What remains is something stronger, purer, and more prepared than before. It is you, not a different person, but a deeper version of who you have become through this journey. Receive these words as more than comfort. Receive them as confirmation. This moment is not random. Long before today, this encounter was already known. I've been guiding the path that brought you here. The season of waiting has not been meaningless, and I am the God who remains faithful to every word I speak. I want to return for a moment to the silence because I know it hurt. There were seasons when you cried out and heard nothing in return. No immediate comfort came. No clear direction appeared. No visible door opened. There was only stillness, and you standing in the middle of it, wondering what had happened. You wondered if you had failed. You wondered whether I was disappointed in you. You wondered if somehow you had drifted beyond my reach. Hear me clearly. You were never beyond my reach for a single moment, not for one breath, not for one heartbeat. My nearness has never depended on your ability to feel it. The silence was not evidence of absence. It was evidence of trust. When a teacher gives a test, the room becomes quiet. The silence is not rejection. It is confidence in what has already been placed within the student. That is what my silence represented. I was not withdrawing from you. I was confident in what I had already planted inside you. I knew what was there, and I waited patiently as it emerged. And it did emerge in ways that still move my heart. You trusted me on mornings when trust felt unreasonable. You prayed on nights when prayer felt like speaking into an empty room. You held on to faith even when it felt fragile enough to break. And through every one of those moments, that thread remained unbroken. That thread never snapped, my child, not once. And it was never held together by your strength alone. It remained unbroken because my hand was holding it the entire time. If these words are reaching your spirit today, say, I believe. I know that when you look back on that wilderness season, you often see only what was lost. You remember the things that disappeared from your life. You remember the people who walked away, the plans that unraveled, and the dreams you carried for so long that they eventually began to feel distant. From where you stood, it seemed as though your life was becoming smaller. It felt as if things were being taken from you one by one. But I was not taking from you. I was creating space. There is a difference, and I need you to see it clearly. A gardener who truly cares for a vine does not allow it to grow unchecked in every direction. He trims it with intention and care, removing what drains its strength without producing fruit. He clears away what is tangled so the vine can reach deeper, grow stronger, and bear more than it ever could before. That is what I was doing during your wilderness season. Every comfort that was removed, every plan that came apart, and every relationship that reached its conclusion was part of that process. It was pruning, not punishment. Some people were only meant to walk with you for a season. When that season ended, I allowed the chapter to close. It was not because they were against you, but because the road ahead required different companions for the journey. What seemed like loss was often preparation for where you were going. Some plans fell apart because they would have kept you rooted in places I was calling you to leave behind. Some opportunities that appeared to be rejection were actually redirection. I was not shrinking your future. I was clearing the path before you. Even in the wilderness, I was making the way straighter than you could see. There was another work taking place as well, one that could only happen in a quieter season. I was teaching you how to recognize my voice. Not only the voice that speaks through miracles or dramatic answers, but the gentle whisper that carries strength beyond what any storm can produce. You would never have learned to hear it so clearly if your life had remained full of constant noise. What felt like stripping away was also preparation. Your spirit was being tuned to recognize me more deeply than before, and now you can hear me in ways you could not hear me then. The wilderness became a place of learning, even when it felt like a place of survival. Every valley carried a lesson within it. You learned to trust when you could not see. You learned to love without guarantees. You learned to forgive while the wound still existed, because you chose freedom over bitterness. Those lessons were shaping something lasting inside you. You discovered that peace does not come from circumstances finally working out. You discovered that peace comes from me. That kind of understanding cannot be learned in seasons of abundance alone. It grows in the quiet places, in the moments when everything else is stripped away and my presence becomes your anchor. None of it was wasted. Not a single day. Not a single tear. Not one sleepless night or one prayer that seemed to rise no higher than the ceiling above you. I received every word. I saw every act of faith. I noticed every moment you chose me when another path would have seemed easier. That wilderness season was never an empty space in your story. It became one of the most important chapters. It revealed what had been formed inside you. And what was revealed is something heaven values deeply. The season of pruning is ending. New growth is already beginning to emerge where things were once cut back. You are stepping out of that wilderness carrying more than you realize. The lessons remain with you. The growth remains with you. The strength remains with you. You are not moving forward empty-handed. You are moving forward with a faith that has been tested and sustained. You are carrying strength that was forged through experience rather than borrowed from someone else's story. You are carrying a peace that remains steady even when circumstances shake around it. I am proud of you, my child, not in the way people often use that word, but in the way a father looks at a child who has walked a difficult road and arrived on the other side still standing, still believing, still belonging to him. That is what I see when I look at you now. I see someone who passed through the fire without losing what mattered most. Your faith remains. Your capacity to love remains. Your heart is still open, because I take care of impossible before you now has a place to settle and grow. I remember the moments when obedience cost you dearly. Not the easy kind of obedience that comes when the path is obvious. I am speaking of the obedience that arrived with tears. The obedience that required you to release something precious, to step away from something familiar, and to trust me when every part of you wanted to hold on. That kind of obedience is rare. There were times when I asked you to surrender things you deeply loved. You obeyed even without understanding. With shaking hands and a hurting heart, you entrusted them to me and said, "Lord, I do not understand, but I trust you." That surrender carried far more strength than you realized. It was never weakness. It was an expression of trust born from love. Not obligation, not fear. Love. That kind of obedience carries lasting significance. It reveals a heart that chooses me even when the outcome remains unseen. I also saw the people you forgave. I saw the wounds they left behind. Some never apologized. Some may never fully understand the pain they caused. Yet you released them anyway. You chose freedom over bitterness. And that choice mattered. The enemy wanted those wounds to settle deeply within you and shape your future, but you refused to carry them. You opened your hand and let them go. In doing so, you stepped into a freedom you could not yet fully see. My child, I am asking you to place a meaningful portion of what you have upon the altar of this work, like gold laid carefully upon a scale. Let it become a seed planted in faith, an offering given without fear. In doing so, you demonstrate that your trust rests in my provision, and that your heart is no longer governed by lack. What is released in faith is never lost. It moves ahead of you into what is being prepared. I saw the arguments you walked away from. I saw the moments when you could have defended yourself loudly, but chose restraint instead. I saw the times humility cost you something in the moment. The world may have overlooked those choices, but heaven did not. Every time you chose peace instead of pride, you reflected my heart. Every time you responded with blessing instead of retaliation, you carried my nature into places that needed it. You served people who never thanked you. You gave even when you yourself had needs. You prayed sincerely for those who had hurt you. Those actions were never attempts to earn my love. They flowed from the love that was already at work within you. That is what it looks like when my spirit is shaping someone's life. Not perfection, not a struggle-free existence. It is love continuing to act even when it would be easier to stop. Every private act of obedience has been seen. Nothing has been forgotten. You may have thought those moments were small, hidden, or insignificant, but they became part of the foundation for what is now being revealed. The things built in secret are preparing to stand in the light. What was surrendered quietly is moving toward increase. What was planted through trust is beginning to rise to the surface. The seeds you placed in the ground through faith are beginning to emerge, and what grows from those seeds carries far more than what was originally placed into the ground. I know there were seasons when you obeyed me, and the outcome still hurt. There were moments when you followed the path I set before you and still watched something precious slip away. I heard the questions you whispered when you said, "Lord, I did what you asked, so why did this still happen?" I heard every word of that cry. I stayed with you in those moments. I did not rush in with easy explanations or ask you to ignore the pain you were feeling. And now I want to help you understand what was happening beneath the surface during those difficult days. When obedience feels costly, I am not testing your ability. I am looking at your surrender. I am asking whether you will continue to trust me when you cannot see where I am leading. I am asking whether you will keep following when the outcome remains hidden from view. Again and again, your answer was yes. That yes built something strong within you. That yes revealed that your faith was rooted in who I am, rather than in whether circumstances unfolded the way you hoped they would. That kind of trust carries a beauty that reaches far beyond what you can see. This is the obedience that heaven honors. Not the obedience of someone simply completing a task, but the trust of a child who believes their father even when the road is unclear. My beloved, you gave me that kind of trust. You offered it through tears, questions, and uncertainty. Because of that, what has been prepared is no longer being held back. The promise is moving forward. The room your obedience created is now being filled. What has been taking shape beyond your sight is drawing closer to visibility. Remain steady. Keep your heart open. What stands ahead is nearer than you realize. Your faithfulness was never measured by accomplishments or appearances. It was measured by surrender. And heaven has seen every place where you chose trust at great personal cost. You trusted when circumstances made little sense. You continued to love when love required sacrifice. You kept moving forward when it would have been easier to retreat. None of that has been overlooked. What has been entrusted into my hands has never been lost. What is surrendered to me is never diminished. The principle remains true. What is released in faith is multiplied according to my purpose. And the season connected to that increase is drawing near. Now, I want to speak about the breaking, because I know it was real. I have never minimized it, ignored it, or pretended it did not hurt. There were times when it seemed as though every part of your life was coming apart at once. The plans you built your future around suddenly gave way beneath your feet. People you expected to stand beside you were absent when you needed them most. Dreams you had carried for years seemed to collapse before your eyes. You found yourself standing in the middle of a reality you never imagined for yourself, trying to understand how everything had changed so quickly. And in those moments you asked one of the deepest questions a human heart can ask. Why did this happen? I want to answer that question with honesty. Not from a distance. Not with cold explanations, but from the perspective of what I saw while you were living through it. Some things were allowed to break because they could not support what needed to be built. I was not tearing down your future. I was preparing the ground beneath it. When a builder intends to establish something lasting, unstable structures must first be removed, so a stronger foundation can be laid. What you heard as breaking was often the sound of deeper work beginning. I was digging beneath what was visible. I was preparing a foundation strong enough to support what lies ahead, without collapsing beneath its weight. If your heart is open to what heaven is speaking today, say, "Yes, Lord, you did not break my child. You broke open." There is a difference. Something that breaks may simply fail, but something that breaks open releases what has been hidden inside. A seed remains a seed until its outer shell gives way and makes room for new life to emerge. That is what happened during your hardest seasons. The external things you depended upon were shaken so that what I had already planted within you could come forward. The faith, love, and trust that had been growing quietly beneath the surface finally began to reveal themselves. I saw you during those moments when you felt completely undone. I saw the nights when you dropped to your knees and whispered, "God, I cannot do this anymore." I saw the tears you never expected anyone else to understand, and I was there in every one of those moments. Something shifted when you surrendered. Surrender is not defeat. It is the posture that receives what force can never obtain. The moment you stopped trying to hold together what I had already allowed to fall apart, you discovered that my hands were underneath you all along. You did not fall into emptiness. You fell into me, and it was there, in that place of surrender, that transformation began. What felt like an ending became the beginning of something deeper than you could yet see. the cracks left behind by those seasons are not evidence that you were ruined. They became openings. Through those places, my light now reaches further into your life and through your life. What appeared to be damage became a place where grace could flow more freely. A heart that has never been opened by suffering often remains closed in ways it cannot recognize. But your brokenness created room. It expanded your capacity to receive and to give. What you once viewed as weakness has become part of the design I am using. The places where you felt most wounded have become places where my grace rests most deeply. And there is something else that came from those seasons that comfort never could have produced. It gave you compassion, not theoretical compassion, not words learned from a distance, real compassion born from experience. You know what it feels like to wait without answers, to hope when hope feels fragile, and to keep holding on when everything inside you wants to let go. Because you know those realities from the inside, you can now sit beside others who are walking through similar valleys. You can offer them something deeper than advice. You can offer understanding. You can offer presence. That is one of the most valuable gifts a person can carry, and much of it was formed through the very breaking you wished had never happened. My precious one, the fire you passed through was never sent to destroy you. I allowed it because there was something valuable within you that needed to be revealed. Gold is refined through heat. Long before the testing came, I already knew what was inside you. I knew the strength of your faith before you ever saw it for yourself. The testing did not create that faith. It revealed it. The fire simply brought to the surface what had been there all along. What seemed like an ending was becoming a beginning. What appeared to be loss was preparation. What looked like chaos was part of a greater work taking shape beneath the confusion. I was building in the middle of the noise, the uncertainty, and the disruption. The very conditions you wished would end were the conditions through which important things were being formed. Not because I am harsh, but because I am thorough. I do not abandon a work halfway through. What has been built through those broken seasons is now strong enough to support what comes next. You are not the same person who entered that fire. You have grown stronger, wiser, gentler, and more resilient all at once. And I want you to know something else. I never lost a single piece of you during those years. There were moments when you felt scattered beyond repair, as if parts of yourself had disappeared in the process. But I was gathering every piece with care. I held each one the way a person carefully holds something precious that can never truly be replaced. And I was doing more than gathering the pieces. I was restoring them. Quietly, patiently, and with great care, I was rebuilding what had been scattered. Piece by piece, I was bringing you back together. Not into the person you once were, but into the person I always intended you to become. The version of you emerging from this season is not diminished. It is more authentic than ever before. It is the person I envisioned before your journey even began. Let that truth settle deeply within you. You are not ruined by what you have been through. You have been remade, and the one who has been shaping you does not make mistakes. Now I want to speak about what lies ahead, not as something far away or uncertain, but as something already unfolding. There were prayers you once carried openly before me, prayers you eventually stopped speaking aloud. It was not because you stopped believing completely. It was because the waiting became so long that saying those words again began to hurt. So you carried those hopes quietly within your heart. You tucked them into that tender place where fragile hope survives when it feels too vulnerable to expose. I know that place well. I have been speaking into it all along, even during the times when you thought you heard nothing. And this is what I have been saying. I have not forgotten. The promise remains alive. What I spoke has not faded. The time connected to its fulfillment is here. Something is shifting around your life, and the season you have been standing in is beginning to change. What seemed motionless is beginning to move. What appeared closed is beginning to open. What felt delayed is beginning to be released. I am the one who governs seasons, and I am bringing change to this one. The long winter that tested your endurance is giving way to something new. The ground that looked barren is warming beneath the surface. Though you cannot yet see it with your natural eyes, life is returning. Movement has already begun. What you have hoped for is no longer a distant possibility. It is drawing nearer even now. I am working through people, circumstances, and moments that are already being positioned. As you hear these words, someone is being stirred toward you. Someone is being prompted to remember your name, to reach out, or to open a door that has remained closed until now. They may not understand why they suddenly feel compelled to act, but I am the one moving their hearts. I have been arranging details through circumstances that seemed unrelated to your prayers. Yet all along, those pieces were moving toward an answer designed specifically for you. If you believe this word belongs to your life, say, I trust. What I am releasing is not insignificant. Long seasons of faith and endurance are not met with empty responses. What is approaching carries the weight of the prayers you have prayed and the sacrifices you have made. It has been prepared for who you are today, not simply for who you were when you first asked. I have been shaping you throughout the waiting, and what is coming has been prepared with that growth in mind. It fits the person you have become through the journey. The answer may arrive through a message that changes the direction of something you had already stopped expecting. It may come through a conversation that was quietly being arranged while you knew nothing about it. It may appear as an opportunity in a place you assumed would remain closed forever, or it may come as a peace so deep and unexpected that you suddenly realize something has shifted inside you. A burden you carried for years may finally settle. A tension you lived with for so long may finally release. Whatever form it takes, you will recognize it. You will not recognize it because it arrives with great noise or attention. You will recognize it because your heart will find rest. The anxious striving will give way to a quiet certainty. That deep sense of peace is one of the ways you will recognize my hand at work. My beloved, I know how fragile hope can become after a long wait. I know how the heart learns to protect itself. I know how disappointment teaches people to lower expectations simply to avoid being hurt again. I understand why those walls were built, but now I want to speak gently to that guarded place. Lower those walls, my child. Open your heart again. Not carelessly and not without wisdom, but open it to me. Open it to receive what I am bringing into your life. A closed heart struggles to receive what an open heart can hold. The very place you have protected most carefully is often the place I am reaching toward with what I have prepared. What you have carried quietly for so long matters more than you realize. The tears you shed in private have not been wasted. They have watered something. The principle of sowing and reaping extends beyond fields and harvests. It reaches into prayer, faith, longing, and fulfillment. Every tear connected to those hopes you continued carrying before me became a seed. Those tears disappeared into the soil of waiting where no one else could see them. They seemed hidden. They seemed forgotten. But I do not allow sacred tears to vanish without purpose. I gather them, I preserve them, and I use them in ways that reach far beyond what you can currently imagine. What grows from them exceeds what anyone would have expected while they remained hidden in darkness. What you prayed for in secret is beginning to emerge into view. What you carried through silent seasons is beginning to rise above the surface. The answer may come from a direction you never anticipated. Often my ways arrive differently than human expectations predict. My paths reach beyond what you would have mapped out for yourself. Yet when it comes, you will know exactly who arranged it. The timing will fit. The details will fit. The answer will meet the need with a precision that leaves little room for doubt. You will recognize my fingerprints on it. You will see my care in the way it unfolds. Take a breath, my child. What has been set in motion is continuing forward. The season of release has begun, and what I begin is not left unfinished. What I have started moves toward completion. Pay attention to what is stirring within you even now. That gentle sense of life rising in your spirit as you hear these words is meaningful. It is more than emotion. It is more than excitement. It is the quiet confirmation of my spirit speaking to yours. Your spirit recognizes truth when it encounters it. Deep beneath every question, every delay, and every season of waiting, you know that I have been present. You know that I have remained faithful throughout every step of the journey. And now the season begins to turn. And now what has been awaited begins to arrive. And now the blessing comes. And soon you will understand that none of the waiting was wasted. Every tear, every prayer, every season that seemed to stretch longer than you thought you could endure carried purpose within it. Let me tell you what this next chapter looks like as clearly as I can. I do not want to speak to you only in broad ideas. I want you to understand what restoration can look like in your life. Where there has been loss, restoration is coming, not a diminished version of what was lost, not something that merely resembles what once existed. I am speaking of restoration that is full, rich, and unmistakable. I am the God who restores, and when I restore, I do more than repair what was damaged. What I return carries increase. What I redeem carries evidence of my hand upon it. The years that felt stolen from you have not disappeared into nothingness. They are being redeemed, and that redemption will become visible in ways that even those around you will notice. Where doors have remained closed, new doors are opening. Not the doors you exhausted yourself trying to force open, but the right ones. The doors connected to purpose rather than merely relief. The doors that align with where I am leading you now. Some doors closed because they were protecting you. Behind certain opportunities were distractions, burdens, or attachments that would have pulled you away from what I was preparing. At the time, you could not fully see it, but as the right doors begin to open, understanding will come with them. You will look back at some of those disappointments differently. You will recognize why certain things never moved forward. You will see what was hidden from view at the time, and gratitude will begin to replace confusion. What once felt frustrating will make sense through a different lens. Where there has been uncertainty about the future, clarity is beginning to emerge. The fog that has made every decision feel difficult is lifting. I am not asking you to see the entire journey all at once. I never reveal every step ahead, because seeing the whole road at once would burden you more than it would help you. Instead, I illuminate the next step, and that next step is becoming clearer. When you see it, take it. Do not wait until every future detail is visible before moving forward. Trust the step I place before you, and the next one will become clear when the time is right. I reveal what is needed for the moment you are standing in. I do not give light for distant roads while you are still walking the one directly in front of you. As you move forward, guidance will continue to unfold. Where relationships have been wounded, healing is beginning. Hearts that became guarded through pain are being softened. Conversations that seemed impossible are finding new openings. Places of misunderstanding are beginning to make room for restoration. Some of the people being brought back into alignment with your life are people you quietly grieved. You assumed certain connections were gone forever. Yet there are threads I am restoring that once seemed too damaged to repair. I am able to weave together what human eyes often consider beyond repair. That does not mean every relationship will return. Some connections completed their purpose in your life, but the relationships that belong in the future I have for you are receiving my attention. Those are the ones I am nurturing toward restoration. Where there has been concern about provision, I am moving there as well. I have seen the weight you have carried. I have seen the nights when financial concerns kept turning over in your mind. I have heard the prayers you prayed when you wondered how everything would come together. I care about those concerns. My care for you is not limited to spiritual matters alone. I care about the practical realities of your life because I know your needs. I know the responsibilities you carry and the pressures you face. What I have prepared for your provision is not an afterthought. It has been part of my work all along. It is connected to the same timing and care with which I have been arranging everything else, and it will come through avenues that are not limited by your own ability to create them. My child, the peace you feel settling over you even now is significant. That quiet calm replacing the anxiety you have carried is itself a sign. Often I send peace ahead of the answer. It becomes a preview of what is drawing near. When peace arrives before circumstances change, it is because the answer is closer than you realize. That peace whispers to your heart, you can rest. You no longer need to carry this alone. I am holding it, and I have been holding it all along. You can release the fear that has followed you through this waiting season. You can release the expectation of disappointment and the instinct to protect yourself from future hurt. Not because every problem has already been resolved, but because the one who brings restoration is already at work. My faithfulness has carried you from the beginning. Even when you could not see it clearly, it remained constant. From the moment I gave you life until this very day, I have been faithful, and I am not changing now. This moment is not something you earned through perfect performance. It is a moment chosen in my wisdom. I see your story fully. I see your circumstances completely, and I see the road ahead more clearly than you ever could. I chose this season. I prepared this moment, and I am standing in it with you. I am not observing from a distance. I am near, closer than you realize, close enough to hear even the quietest whisper of your heart. The new chapter is already unfolding. The page is turned. You are no longer standing in the chapter defined by testing. You are stepping into a chapter marked by fulfillment. Yet the greatest gift in that chapter is not what you receive. The greatest gift is who you have become. You now carry a deeper understanding of my faithfulness than you did before. You know me in ways that could only be learned through experience. You have encountered not only the blessing, but the one who gives it. That knowledge remains with you forever. It cannot be taken away. And now I want to speak about who you are today, not who you were when this difficult journey began, but who you have become through it. You have not been diminished by suffering. You have been expanded by it. The process stretched you, and at times that stretching was painful. Yet through it, your capacity has grown beyond what it once was. You can carry greater love because you have learned how costly love can be and chose it anyway. You can hold deeper peace because you learned to find it beneath circumstances rather than within them. You can extend greater grace because you know what it feels like to desperately need grace yourself. Every difficult season enlarged something within you. Your heart carries more depth now than it did before. There is more room for compassion, more room for understanding, and more room for trust than there once was. So stop measuring yourself against the version of you that existed before the fire. That person was not more complete. That person simply had not yet experienced the refining process. What has emerged through that refining carries a depth and clarity that could only come through the journey you have walked. There is something refined gold carries that raw gold does not. Its value is not found in its unfinished state, but in what emerges after it has passed through the fire. That is what has happened in you. I am not speaking about perfection. I am speaking about a deeper clarity, a steadiness of spirit, an understanding of what truly matters and what does not. You carry a wisdom that could only come through experience. You have learned things that cannot be taught in comfort alone, and that wisdom now rests within you. It has prepared you for what lies ahead in ways you may not fully recognize yet. I have always known your name. I have always seen your face. But there is something special about this moment, this crossing from one season into another, that makes me want you to hear these words more deeply than ever before. I want you to receive them fully. You are my child, not because of what you achieved, not because of how well you performed. You are mine because I chose you, and nothing that happened during the waiting changed that reality. The doubts did not change it. The questions did not change it. The moments when you struggled to feel my presence did not change it. Your belonging was never dependent upon your circumstances. It remains secure through every season. You belong to me completely. You belong to me permanently. That truth is the foundation beneath everything else. It is what holds you steady when other things shift around you. As you move into this new chapter, I am asking you to keep your hands open. Do not cling tightly to what has already passed. Do not brace yourself against what has not yet arrived. Open hands are able to receive what closed hands cannot. What I am bringing settles most deeply in a heart that trusts me. The long season of waiting has been shaping that trust within you. It has been teaching you how to release self-protection and rest more fully in my care. That posture is preparing you to receive what is ahead. I also want to speak about the people you carry in your heart, the people you pray for when no one else sees, the names you bring before me in quiet moments. What I am doing in your life is not limited to you alone. What I pour into your life will reach beyond you. Those you love will be touched by the same faithfulness that has carried you. The work taking place in your story has a wider reach than you currently realize. What comes into your life now is not only for your benefit, though I care deeply about you. It is also a testimony to others. Through your story, people will see that I am still working, still faithful, and still present in the lives of those who trust me through difficult seasons. Some who hear your story will find renewed hope. Some who are close to giving up will discover the strength to keep going. They will recognize that the same God who carried you through your season is able to carry them through theirs as well. The full impact of your endurance is greater than what you can currently measure. There are things your faithfulness has accomplished that remain beyond your sight, but I see all of it, and I know the value of every step you took. My precious one, I am sending you into this new season with everything you need. Yes, provision matters. Yes, opportunity matters. Yes, opportunity matters. But above all else, I am sending you with my presence. I was with you during the planting, and I will be with you during the harvest. I want you to hear me today. I want because evidences of I will be with you when they open. My presence does not rise and fall with circumstances. It remains constant. Let my presence be your foundation. Build your life upon me. What is built upon that foundation carries a strength that circumstances cannot remove. I want you to remember what I have been speaking over your life through every difficult day, even during the moments when you thought you heard nothing. I love you, not an idealized version of you, not a future version of you. I love you exactly as you are. I love you with every scar this journey has left behind, every question you still carry, and every hope that still feels tender. My love did not weaken during the wilderness. It walked into that season with you, and it is walking out of that season with you now. It has remained constant from beginning to end, and it always will. The time has come. The season prepared for this moment is here. What I have promised is moving toward fulfillment. Stay attentive, keep your heart open, and when it arrives, let gratitude rise within you. Remember that the God who carried you through the fire also carried you beyond it. Nothing about this journey has been without purpose. What has been unfolding all along continues to unfold even now. You passed through the testing. Heaven witnessed every step. The same heaven that saw your tears has also seen your trust. What was prepared through your faithfulness is moving toward its appointed time. Nothing is being withheld. Nothing is being withheld. What has been prepared has been measured carefully, arranged intentionally, and brought forward according to perfect timing. What is coming is neither accidental nor random. The long road is behind you now, and a new stretch of the journey lies ahead. If your heart is open and ready to receive what heaven is bringing into your life, declare, I receive this. We are supported entirely by our viewers. For exclusive content and additional resources, please scan the QR code or use the support link in the description. God bless you.